This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present a collection of fandoms and exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content, and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from Bitten, with mentions of an obvious enchantment, blood and chocolate, and Twilight. For full list, please see show notes. There's also discussion surrounding sexual assault.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to ACOFAE, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing Bitten by Kelly Armstrong,
which is book one in the Women of the Otherworld series. And we thought that in honor of National Werewolf Day on February 6th, why not throw it back to a little bit older book, which also inspired a TV show. But Laura, I know that this was formative for you growing up. You have like a story to share, like your whole experience with this book and werewolves and your first introduction into this, because I know you were reading about vampires and with Anne Rice way before this book was on your radar.
Well, thank you for that wonderful lead-in. Now I have to deliver. Okay, I love this book, Bitten. I have it in my hand right here. This is the original, first printing of it. It's not my first copy. My first copy of this was destroyed in a flood, but I went on thrift books and I got it again. Very important to me because I'm holding it up. This is the cover that I saw in the store that caught my eye. And very important story here. So this book, Bitten by Kelly Armstrong, and also this book, An Obvious Enchantment by Tucker Malenke. I've talked about this before, I think. These two books, I bought them at the same time at the same thrift store. And I think Valdosta... I really if you know, you know, if maybe the Tangier, I don't know, but I was with my mom. It was a road trip situation and she was with my grandma and she was like, I was at the age where I was trusted to one, not get taken, and two, to safely be in a shopping center by myself. So I went to my first ever used bookstore in this outlet mall that I was with my family. And these are the first two thrifted books that I ever got, Bitten and An Obvious Enchantment. And I say that because it was this book came out in 2001. So I read it about that time, very formative time for me. But this cover captivated me. I was like, wow, this is crazy. What is this about? I opened it up and it says, the story, young, beautiful Elena is talking about, she is a werewolf. She is what she is. And I was like, oh, a werewolf. Okay. All right. I like that. That's fine. I can read this. I have to say that, this was also my first experience outside of, just pointed out Anne Rice, but outside of Anne Rice, because I really don't count them. This is my first experience truly with an adult paranormal situation. Cause if you think about 2001, the book space was not what the book space is now. YA was not a thing. It was you had the older books in the children's section. It was just kind of getting out there. But this was an adult book. This is an adult book. These characters are in their 30s, late 30s. You know, Clayton's 37. Elena's in her 30s as well. I was captivated by this. And then the story itself is and was very unique for me. It was very adult. It was kind of austere, a little, it's all kind of gray. There's not a lot of bright colors. it's and the story itself is kind of like working class, like out in the mountain, New York. It's very, I don't know, it's very earthy, but again, that's all kind of part of it. I just love this. And Elena as a character was very formative growing up because, and I will say this now for everybody listening, this book taught me, and Jess, I already told you this book taught me that I should never date any man that reminds me of my father, because that relationship will not work out, because that relationship is based in a different kind of love than romantic love. And while I am seeking something in that relationship, the romantic part of it will never work out. And this book taught me that at a very formative age, and that has stuck with me ever since.
Which is also so crazy in the way that there are certain lessons. Like, of course, I get it. We're older, and sometimes you need to like go through life and go through different points to learn these lessons. But how great would it be if we were able to, like, this is, like we said, it's an adult book. And I didn't realize that initially because I knew this book was formative for when you were younger. So I think I went into reading it, thinking it was YA, till some spice showed up in the book and I go, oh, this is not YA. And I get like you have like Fade to Black scenes and stuff, and there's like low grade spice and some YA, but this was not that. And I was like, that's right. This isn't YA. And I know you've shared on the podcast, you didn't have a lot of censorship in your house with what you watched and what you read. And I love that for you, because now I'm like, oh, okay. But I always knew that like the show was based off of this book. And I'm very like loose with what I remember with the show. Just like Clay was hot and Elena is hot and it's perfectly casted and like things were amiss kind of situations. But even with the spice, take the spice out, the story is there. The substance is there. To what you were saying, like there's a different type of love. And Elena, who we know as of her character, she's orphaned. Like her parents died. And I mean, things have so changed so much, obviously, because I'm reading this and they're like, oh my gosh, her mom's best friend wanted to adopt her. She's like, you know me, I'm your best friend. Like there is a familiarity there. And then the government was like, well, you can't. That's not. And I would like to believe that there are cases now that they would choose, and they were like, oh, because she's a single woman. It wasn't, they were just like, you can't have her, where she's going to be a ward of the state. And she got bounced around to multiple foster families and was a survivor of a lot of the negative things that happened in those foster homes. But there was something that Elena was chasing during her life with the person she was soon to be engaged to. That just wasn't going to happen, but she was just seeking in that relationship.
We've mentioned Elena. Okay. I told Jessica Marie
I know you did.
to not worry about the names, because there are a lot of names that get thrown out like quickly, and you can like take them down, and then you don't really establish that. It's a lot. This book really benefits from a reread, but who are some of these people, Jessica Marie?
So we have Elena, who is our FMC. We have Clay/Clayton. He's our MMC. And Elena's love interest, one of her love interests, for lack of a better word, who is the wolf that bit her. Then we have Jeremy, who is essentially our pack leader. We have a lot of like other wolves in the pack, who have like brother-like relationships with Clay, but all have the hots for Elena. And to some degree, more or less, because there's Logan, there's Nick, there's Peter, there's Antonio. And then we have some of the bad guys. We have Daniel. We have Brandon. We have LeBlanc. Yes. And then there was
Marston.
I was like, Marston.
Carl.
There we go. Thank you. But I think also an important thing and then we have Philip, the guy that she's dating in Toronto. But one thing to note is Elena is the only woman in this entire story. She has no girl best friends. She has no female best friends. She is the only werewolf who is a woman amongst all the werewolf lore, because typically women, especially those who are bitten, don't survive the change. So she's already an anomaly that everybody has heard and learned about amongst the werewolves of present day.
Of which there are not a lot. I think that's also important too, because in this story, like our pack, like our main pack, 2 members get killed, and it is significant enough that it knocks everybody down to being able to fit in one car. So the pack is the main pack is very small. And then there are mutts that are unaffiliated with the pack that are like roaming around the world that they keep tabs on. But it is established very early on that women typically don't survive the bite, but also like the werewolf gene, like genetically, it's through the male line, which I thought was like really interesting, because it like kind of forces all these men to take responsibility for their sons, instead of like the other way around of like women being, the men like take their sons and leave the women and say like, no, I'm taking my son, you can't have him, and like leave. I thought that was an interesting little twist. And then to have Elena be this, Jeremy sets her up in like this frilly room with all these like plants and all these like very like delicate china things, and like a canopy bed with a cherry tree out front. And Elena is just like, oh my God, this man has never been around a woman in his entire life.
They haven't. And I think also like it's compared to, yes, he hasn't been around a woman ever. But then also to have somebody pay attention to her, obviously it's like not her style. And I think it's more or less the care that he's showing her. That's also what she's not used to, because she's like, okay, but there has to be an ulterior motive here, because why is he being so kind to me? Why is he feeling responsible? He thinks, and she even says it with, like different thought processes that happened where she's like, he's trying to buy my silence. He's trying to, this isn't what people do, because again, her circumstances has brought her to believe this is not altruistic.
And it's so interesting because Elena struggles with this. I mean, it's like a 10-year timeline between when she's bitten and when this story happens, like 10, 11 years.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, because she got bitten when she was in college.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a good decade that she's been dealing with this. And she still has this feeling, even though he's her pack alpha, but like with Jeremy, he's just doing this. He has all these other reasons. It can't possibly be because he cares about me. And, he puts me in the cage. I do all these terrible things. He keeps coming back. Like, that's just because of guilt. Because now, Jess, you alluded to it, but how did Elena become a werewolf?
So she became a werewolf because Clay bit her, but Clay bit her in wolf form. And she didn't know that werewolves existed at this point. She was doing the typical, I'm laughing because my niece did this recently. And I was like, she found a cat at a gas station. She's like, but he needs us. Come here, kitty, as he's hissing at her, right? And so Elena essentially does something similar to be like, oh, but this is just such a good doggy. And Jeremy's like, Elena, I need you to listen to me. Don't get closer. And at the same time, trying to like reprimand Clay in wolf form without saying, Clay, like, back the fuck up. And through this, like, come here, good doggy. He just doesn't know me. Like, I'm an unfamiliar person. He needs to know my scent and my smell. He bites her in this process and is essentially shunned. And they say, like, he is shunned. He is excommunicated from the pack for some time for this bite that he turned Elena. Like, the skin was punctured. There was no, like, oh, let's get a antidote. No, she was bitten. She is now a werewolf. That's it. Her choice. And this is something that she's also like grappling with through like her inner monologue as we're reading this book, is she had this idea of what family would be like, what her future would be like. There were things that she was grieving that she didn't have during her childhood and during her formative years growing up because of her foster situation. And then when she started changing the narrative for herself, she was like, you know what? No, I don't have those things now, but I'm going to be able to I'm going to create the life that I wanted as an adult. And I'm going to give my future children this life that I wanted to. I'm going to break the cycle by recreating the cycle, that whole conversation. But now her choice of that future and what she knew of it was taken from her because of this bite. And she had to grieve this whole other loss, which she blamed Clay for. She blamed him. They were engaged. And she was like, that was the moment they broke off the engagement. Absolutely. You took everything from me, this life that I thought we were going to have, and you lied to me in the process. Yeah. So that's kind of like how she got bitten and, through events, and she shares that too, like how Clay was like, brought back into the pack, but she still didn't. She was like, I need my distance from everybody. Like, yes, I'm bitten. Yes, I'm a wolf, but like, I need to have my own life. I'm still very much a part of the human world. And she goes from one extreme to the other and goes back to Toronto. And she has a pack brother, essentially, that she had a really close relationship, Logan, who, even though she kind of left the pack, she kept in touch with, because he was somebody who also understood her love for being human and being a part of just like a human community, being a part of the city. He had he was an attorney. He understood human mentality and kind of like this juxtaposition between the human and the werewolf and worlds. And she found comfort in that.
Well, comfort is something that Elena just doesn't have a lot of. And kind of going back to when you were talking about Clay biting Elena, something that kind of amplified the betrayal of all of that for Elena was she opened up to Clay. She told him about all of her foster care. She told him about, all of those feelings that she had. She really felt that she could share all of that. He could know all parts of her. That is one of those, like, I will show you all of my darkest parts and you'll still love me kind of situations. And she thought that he had done the same because he was also giving her just buckets and buckets and buckets of information. He'd introduced her to Nick and Logan and I think Peter already. And but he had lied about this enormous, arguably the biggest part of his life, being a werewolf. And she could not get over the fact that she thought she knew him, left, right, back and forth. And she did not know him at all. And that is devastating.
Yeah, well, that's a betrayal within itself, because again, going back to all of her trauma, and he has his own trauma too, because he became an orphan. Jeremy took him under his wing and became like one of his wards, more or less. And that's another thing where she was like, we're the same, we understand. Like, it's like only certain people know different traumas that you've gone through if they shared it. Like, you can tell anybody, like, people can have sympathy for you, but it's so different when somebody is like like I don't even want to say different sides of the same coin. They are the same side of the same coin, and they just see each other for what they were. So I could understand where she was like, I draw this line because I gave you everything. And she even said, she's like, he was the first person that I was willing to just share all this with. And that's when I knew I loved him. And then it was just all taken away in an instant.
In an instant. And Elena did not, I mean, obviously she didn't know, of course. So it's arguable that she didn't want it. I don't know. No one will ever know. But she was unaware and the choice was taken from her. But because she fought the transformation and change, it took her over a year to like really accept her circumstances, to really accept what was going on. And, over time, she became very comfortable in the pack, and she and Clay were given a job, and that job was to maintain dossiers on all of the mutts in the world, essentially, and to go out and police them, more or less, you know, threat here, a little bit of this here, a little bit of
keep
that
everybody
there.
in line, because she was also like an expert tracker.
Yep.
They were like, we know that you were bitten and creative and not born into all of this, but you're actually the best of the best.
You're
so
actually,
we
like,
have a
really
job
good.
for you. You're actually a badass.
So what happens when Elena finally just Elena goes too far on one of these missions and kills a human who just found out too much about werewolves, and she did that without clearing it with Jeremy, and riddled with guilt, she breaks from the pack and then goes to Toronto, meets Philip, and has this whole life. Okay. But this job that she was doing, these like maintaining the dossiers and keeping all the mutts in line, was not maintained in this time that she's been away, that she's been gone. And because everyone was living under the expectation that like, she'll be back any day. She'll be back any day. It won't be that long. She'll be back any day. And then like weeks turn into months and months turn into a year, you know, the whole thing. So by the time Elena is called back to Stonehaven in Upper New York by Jeremy, by the time that happens, that is happening because the pack is under attack from mutt werewolves that Elena should have been keeping tabs on this whole time.
I feel like this is just like one big giant miscommunication trope at this point, because she was like, fuck y'all, I'm out. And they were like, yeah, okay. Because, yeah, they might have expected her to come back. But because they didn't feel like it was like this clean cut, there was like, oh, but she'll still keep up with it even though she's not with the pack. And her mentality was like, I dipped. I fucking left. Not only did I leave the city, I left the country. This isn't on my plate anymore. So then when she does come back, because Jeremy, like, Packmaster beckoned her, she was like, I didn't keep up with any of this. And he goes, oh, you left? She goes, yeah, I left. And he goes, and you made a clean cut. She goes, well,
it's like, ooh,
I thought I did. Did you not take? Oh, maybe I didn't. And then, but that's how essentially the story starts, because she's like, why if I don't just go there? She didn't even say to go there. She's like, fine, I'll call him back, because if I don't call him back, he'll just keep calling. So let me just nip it in the bud. And then he's not answering, at which point her live-in boyfriend is like, look, call, like, this is because she's told them, like, this is kind of my family. And he, knowing her background loosely, is like, yeah, I didn't realize you had family. I would have met them earlier. But if they're calling you, it has to be kind of crazy. If they're not answering you, you know where to go. Go. I support you, and we'll figure it out. Like, we're going to be long distance. Maybe you just being like boots on the ground there, maybe it's not as big as you think. And then you'll be home. It'll give everybody a sense of comfort. So she does that with and so Philip is a good guy. He's a safe guy.
He's a safe guy. He grows balls towards the end of the book.
Ish. And then he here's the thing. It was like blood and chocolate. The way he acted. Men. I know. It's exactly the same. We'll get there.
So the plot of this book, we can just say it from the very beginning. The plot of this book, because we've built up like Elena's plot, because Elena's like kind of the main character here. But what is going on is that Daniel is ex-pack, and he is dying for revenge against the pack and against Clay specifically. He wants Elena, all of this like very male territorial bullshit kind of thing.
I mean, it all is.
It all is.
Yeah.
But like, again, they are wolves, so we have to kind of put ourselves in here. And there's a distinction, and we'll get to it. So, Daniel's ex-pack. So he's a mutt, but he's got like he's like a little higher on the food chain than the rest of them. Just because, like, he's ex-pack and he knows everybody very intimately. Like, he grew up with Clay, all of this stuff. And then you have Carl Marston, and he is the other, like, really dangerous mutt. He is suave, sophisticated, but he murders, like, all of this stuff. And then you have Thomas LeBlanc. He's a killer. We'll get to him. And Scott Brandon too. Those mutts are the ones that the pack are aware of and track, and they all are part of a plan to hunt down and change serial killers into werewolves so that they can form their own pack and wipe out Jeremy and his rule, so that when they are established as the new pack, people can be hunted free reign for sport with no repercussions. And that is like the end goal for Daniel.
Because Jeremy's pack is also like, is kind of seen, I feel, from all of the werewolves as like pack supreme. They are the shit, and they have morals and ethics, and people don't want order and they don't want that. They kind of want to do their own thing, because these are the same wolves who are like, yeah, we have like the serial killers and the werewolves who want to hunt people. They don't want to just hunt people for food source. They want to do it for sport. They want to do it for entertainment. And even with Jeremy's pack supreme, they're under we don't hunt people, we hunt animals. And that's going to be it for us. And they're fine with that. It's very much like how the Cullens only eat animals.
But I think the difference too between like Jeremy's pack and the Cullens specifically is that Jeremy's pack like really enjoys being werewolves. Like they really enjoy life. They enjoy making money. They
do paranormal right. They make the money. They don't work hard. They're like, let me sell a painting that'll suffice us as income for years with spending habits that include buying Porsches and Camaros and like all these souped up things, where they just get to like chill every now and then, decide to be linguists, go back and educate themselves so they're medics. Like they're not, and they don't have to move around. They just like we were talking about this before, buying hundreds of acres that nobody can step foot on because it's private, so they can run and roam freely. And they make sure that hunters can't go onto their property because they want to be able to roam. And they have a perfect situation where, questionable things are happening in this small town. So let's look to the outliers as, suspect number one. And I will say, their lies, they're very quick on their toes. They were like, oh, why aren't you letting hunters on your property? Go for this reason. I can't even go on a hike with my guests without you shooting. This is why it's private property. They're buttoned up. I love it.
Yeah, they're on their business. And I do really appreciate that. You know, they say like we have to pick up our packages at the post office. We can't let them sit. Like we've got to go in and like, you know, go get cash from the bank and like give your ID. Like we need to be
When
seen.
was the last time you called Philip? Like he's going to start, call him. You better be calling him every day or he's going to come asking questions. What's the lie that you came with? Because now he's going to, if he's a significant person in your life, and Laura, you and I have talked about this, you're like, what would be the hour of like, how long would you wait till not hearing from each other? And you're like, if I don't hear from you in a couple hours, I'm like, just give me a sign of proof of life.
Yeah. And you know, Elena, that's another part of like Elena's character development and acceptance of herself and her situation as well, is that she ends up forgetting Philip in a number of situations where she's like, fuck, all right, I gotta call him. But what has happened is that Daniel and this like little army of newly turned mutts and established mutts, because everybody's got like a little turning buddy so that everybody's with each other and nobody's alone. But they are essentially toying with the pack in Bear Valley, and through a series of plot devices, and I mean, there's a rave in here, and a lot, there's you know, Elena is used as bait. There's a confrontation in a police officer in a police station where Elena breaks LeBlanc's wrist. Like through all of these situations, the Mutt pack is essentially terrorizing our legitimate pack, and through these antics end up killing both Logan and Peter in kind of like horrific ways that are designed to haunt Elena and the rest of the pack, knowing that Elena is especially close to Peter and Logan. And it is through those like really kind of gruesome acts that, and then later when Elena is put in mortal danger more than once, that Elena really comes to realize that the things that she had been looking for in Toronto and trying to build with Philip and his family, she already had that family here with the pack. She just needed to accept that. And I also just want to point out that the joy that is expressed by all members of the pack about being a werewolf. Everybody really loves being a werewolf. There is no like guilt about being a werewolf. Everybody enjoys it. You know, you just kind of like slough off all this other stuff and you kind of let your instinct take over. And Elena says like, you know, these are patterns that have been drilled into our brains for all of these like years. Like you just let your instinct take over, and it's this like form of freedom that you can't imagine. And it was and is nice to have joy in a supernatural creature. It's like Caroline when she's like, I love being a vampire.
Yeah, and everybody was so like, they held it against her that she wasn't so in the doldrums about like, oh my God, I'm such a vampire. She's like, y'all met me as a human. I didn't even like me as a human. I love me as a vampire. But again, I can't even say that because it was like her choice was taken from her too, even like in Caroline's POV, and she embraced it. I mean, we've had this conversation. You'd embrace it. You're like, werewolf wolf. I don't care.
Give me something.
But with that being said, that's also part of this, like kind of the plot with these serial killers is they absolutely embraced. They were like, you're going to tell me, especially the serial killers, you're telling me I can continue to have a bloodlust. I can continue to have a slower aging, and I can eat people for meal and sustenance and for entertainment. So their acclimation to the were life was so much quicker than Elena's, because Elena's like, how they've transitioned in prison. None of this makes sense. And that's when she does her reflection to be like, wait, nobody's done this more or less like experiment, I say in air quotes, of what if somebody was already ready to embrace it? I had a hard time with the transition because I didn't want it.
It's just a whole other mindset, which is just really, really interesting. And it catches everybody off guard. Everybody is caught off guard by all of this, which is not great for werewolf alpha. And Jeremy admits it later to Elena. He's like, we are in fucking trouble, Elena. Like, stop with your bullshit. Calm the fuck down. We are in trouble. I need you to be level-headed and help me sort this the fuck out, because like I was not ready for this. I acted too slow. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being clever, but it just bit me right in the ass. And like, we all need to regroup. Like that is also something that I really appreciate. Like, Jeremy is a really wonderful leader in that way, where he admits like, I fucked all of this.
Well, yeah. And I think she even says like he might not be the strongest, but he has a capability and a foresight to be a leader and to recognize the mistakes, because he also admits, he's like, I got lazy. I got complacent as a leader. I just felt like, oh, everything's fine. Never, all this kind of started and happened under my nose because I didn't think anybody would not want to live the way that we live.
Well, yeah. And of course, you know, men always making that assumption. But, and also, Jeremy does something which I find just absolutely just bonkers. But I want to talk about one of my favorite instances in the book. So, the meat of this book is the murder mystery of like, who is killing all of these people in Bear Valley? Who's planting them on Pack territory? Who's leading the cops there? Who's calling the cops, you know, calling in tips, pulling us over when we're hiding bodies? Like, who is doing all of this and why? That is like the majority of the plot. But then we have kind of like one of our major confrontations where everybody that's left of the pack goes to the airport to kind of intercept the last members that are coming into town before, you know, the big like showdown or whatever. And Elena gets separated from everybody, and she is stalking the wrong person. And as she's stalking the wrong person, she is cornered by Thomas LeBlanc, who saw her stalking the wrong person and decided, fuck the rest of the plan, you know, to pick up, I think his name's Jimmy, coming in from the airport. He's going to follow Elena and and sees what happens. Now, Elena, just as you mentioned, is the only female werewolf in existence. And because of that, she has enjoyed this level of privilege that nobody else has ever experienced ever. Everything that she does is, even because she has bitten the ear off Daniel, who is like the ringleader of all of this, like, you know, years ago when he was still Pack. And he laughs about it and shows everybody, and you know, it's a point of pride for him. And everything that she does is kind of treated that way. So her mentality is that nobody would actually hurt her. No one would actually kill her because she is so vulnerable, or she is so valuable. If not because she's the only like female werewolf, it's because she's like, you know, Clay's like wife more or less in the pack. Or, and this is brought up later in a huge plot point, she, as the only female werewolf, can be bred to make pure werewolves in a new pack, which is brought up later. And all of those things kind of in her head kind of keep her safe. But then she is shot at with a gun by Thomas LeBlanc in the airport long-term parking, and it almost gets her. He is aiming for her, and he ends up killing another woman that came out because it looked like her. And that is a stark moment of realization for Elena, that it's like a before this happened and an after this happened. Her life completely changes in this moment.
Yeah, because like you said, he killed another woman thinking it was her, because she even said, like, I hear footsteps. Let me make it to that person. So then basically, if I have public eyes on me, he's going to back away. And he wound up killing the person that she was going towards because he thought that was her. So that's when she realized her vulnerability. And then to double down, he does get a bullet in her or nick her. And she was like, that was a couple shots or a couple inches above my heart. He was aiming for me. So now this was like, it doubled down what she was like, oh, maybe that was an accident and she was just collateral damage to, oh no, that was really supposed to be me. I have no level of protection. Cause like you said, she did live in that privilege. She thought no matter what, the worst that can ever happen is I'll get kidnapped and I will either find my way out or someone's going to find me, but I'm still going to be surviving through all of these circumstances. And even with like the worst, one of the worst case scenarios for her in her head of like, I'm going to get, SA'd that was something she had already experienced through her foster homes. So it was very much a point like, look, I know that at that point I'm just a body, but I have the mental fortitude for like next steps and I can handle it. And also like a better me than somebody else kind of situation. But her realizing that she was no longer, she was up to be killed. She's like, oh, and that sent her into a spiral. Her anxiety attack debilitated her in that moment almost until she kind of had to like whip out of it for survival. I mean, Clay did show up, thank God, but like then I think she let herself like really be vulnerable finally to be like, oh my God, what just happened? Now I'm with safe people that I can actually process what was going to happen. And she had to share that vocally with them too, because it wasn't just Elena understanding this privilege. Her whole pack lived with this understanding too, until she shared, no, like, you don't understand, like, this was serious. All bets are off. It is very likely that I am a target now and there is no safety.
There is no safety. All bets are off. That was my feeling when Jeremy sent Elena and Clay to go live with Philip. Oh my God. Oh my God. Just... Ooh, Jeremy, what are we doing? I like how
safety and like, have we not like, and that's a perfect example of safety in numbers. Like if there's anything that we learned in all of this, especially because two members of the pack have died at the hands of these folks, and they were isolated. Every time those people had died, they were in a case of isolation. So like, say this is a safety in numbers situation. So the fact that they think, account manager, CFO Philip is going to save them.
Oh, Philip. Oh, Philip. How awkward all of this. I love, like, Clay's like the cleanest person in the world. He was always in the shower.
I know, he must have thought I would have been, kid had some sort of phobia, like
something. Oh my gosh. So awkward because it's Elena's two worlds colliding. Elena says, okay. Yes, this follows the pattern very beautifully. If you include the prologue, it follows the pattern. If you don't include the prologue, it follows the pattern. Even better. Take your pick. But the prologue is a really beautiful exploration of Elena struggling with being a werewolf in the city and struggling with like how she's going to change, how she does it, how she kind of manages her life with Philip. And she says that she presents to Philip the perfect version of herself, the version that she wants to be, and the version that she is, and the version of herself that she is when she is with Stonehaven is like, she uses that as like, oh, that's the wolf me. Like, I can't help how I act there. That's the wolf me. And she has separated these two versions. So when they are all in the same one bedroom apartment, it is just like this clash of stifling emotions. And oh my God.
Well, an internal battle that she is having, like you said, because he's like, what is the deal with you and your cousin? She's like, he brings out the worst in me. We're just always fighting. And he goes, because Philip is very much like, and here I was thinking you didn't have a mean bone in your body. You didn't know how to get angry because she's always suppressing her feelings around him. And then on the same time where she's like also realizing that there are things of the city that she still loves, But there is her wolf nature that she feels at peace for with Clay, where she's like, well, maybe, and again, this is, her and Clay have been, she's still dating Philip. And at this point, she has been intimate with Clay multiple times. And she's trying to be like, I just need distance from you. I always get sucked up in our chemistry. But she's also trying to piece together these things where like, well, now I'm in the city and Clay is here. I could kind of like, he is my piece. She's not saying she's in love with him, but like she's trying really hard to deny the fact that he brings her such comfort. And usually I'm not a second chance romance kind of girl. But I do love it in this regard, too. I mean, he's trying. So, like, it was an ex. At first, I was like, oh, hell no. And then, like, he's trying. He's like, he still considers himself engaged. He won't date anybody. He won't fuck anybody. The town respects the hell out. He is a married man. He honors that, that promise that he made to her, that you've been the only person for me. Like, and I love that for Clay. I beg. We always say men don't beg. He has been begging for 10 years. Good for him. And not because she kept going back. If anything, she's like, no, get away. Still stay away. And we love a man who begs.
We love a man who begs. Something that I also really like, too, is that Clay is the one eventually that gets kidnapped, not Elena. Clay gets kidnapped. I liked that. Elena goes to get him. He doesn't have to go get her. I really enjoyed that. But first we have to deal with like all of these awkward encounters where Clay has to point out to Elena, like, you hate the subway. Why are you forcing yourself to do this? You hate skirts. Why are you forcing yourself to do this? You love syrup. Why are you forcing yourself to not eat syrup? You need to eat. Why are you forcing yourself to starve? Like, confronting all of these things where she's trying to force her way into human society, where he is telling her, like, actually, you can do both, but you just need like a partner that knows like who you are truly, like who knows all of you.
And he's very much like, and that partner doesn't have to be me. Would love it to be, but you need to do you, and somebody who accepts all of you and not just a version of yourself that you're presenting.
Yeah. And what ends up happening is Elena and Clay, Philip is busy. Philip is really busy. He has meetings. He has golf. He has emergency phone calls. He's got all these things.
Like, at first I thought he was just like this person. And then when he's like doing the golf out and then he was getting called, I was like, he has to be like CFO or something that's always on call. And I got to go to this meeting. I have to do this thing on the weekend. Like I have to travel. You and your cousin go do whatever, which had to be an awkward thing. I can imagine Philip is like, I know y'all are cousins.
But like,
don't know what kind of cousins, because he's down bad for you. I'm in denial and I don't want to believe it. You might be blind, but I'm a man and I know when a man loves my woman. He's trying so hard though. Like again, he's a safe guy. He's trying to engage in conversation. He like, granted, it's not like he's opening her house. Like it's her house. It is her house. He moved in with her. Love that. But he's very like, I want to have a life with you. I want to propose to you. I want to have a house. I've been looking at houses, which is already like part of me. I was like, well, why don't you bring me if you want to look at houses? I have a stay in her houses, but that's a different conversation. But he's like, I need to know where you stand in all of this.
And she cannot answer him. So he kicks Clay out of the house. After they have like a really beautiful, like Victoria Day, like sparkler all-nighter run situation. And Elena's very happy and content in the city with Clay, just as you said. And she goes home and Philip is sitting there. He's like, I've been here all fucking night. Where the hell have you been? But he does propose to her.
Proposes to her-ish. He's like, I want to do these things. I want to do it the right way. Just know that I am planning on buying you a ring, and those are the conversations that should happen. Because if you just sprung up, will you marry me? And we never had that conversation. Trust, I'd be saying no.
Yeah. Well, and Elena doesn't say yes. She goes, well, I need to think about it. to think about it. And she is in a daze. She is in a complete daze. And in this daze, Clay gets kidnapped. She is expecting him to be there. He's not there. Like, oh my God. She goes to the apartment, looking for him because she has like nausea and anxiety. She goes to the apartment. Philip has been attacked. Philip is like bleeding out. Clay's ring is on the counter. There is a note, Elena, meet me back in Bear Valley or he dies, essentially, by tomorrow at 10. Elena calls 911. She's got the brains, calls 911. But then this like overwhelming fear takes over her and she changes in front of Philip and she sees his horror. I think the words are horror and disgust. And she realizes that it would never work. She could never truly be herself around him. And there's no going back now. Because he has seen who she really is and he has rejected her.
And this is the part, like, because she's also contemplating, like, maybe I do show him this version of myself. Maybe he will accept all of me because she is so tied to wanting this life that has shown, and this person who has shown her stability, normalcy, trust, patience, all of her, like every single excuse she's given to her when she needs to do like a wolf run. He's like, I'll come with you. And she's like, I need time with my thoughts by myself. He's like, I'm just here for your safety. And she's like, meanwhile, in her internal thoughts, because he doesn't know, she's like, bitch, I'm more safe by myself than you watching me. You don't know. But he is just like, again, he's a good, safe person. And it all changes because that's where her freak out was. Like, here's this person that I love. Granted, she comes to the conclusion that it is not necessarily romantic love, but a form of love towards him. And it kind of shakes up her world. And like her anxiety attacks really have her black out. I mean, if you've ever had a panic attack, it does happen. Like you get cold sweats. It's not great. You black out. It's awful. And that's what's happening because at the same time, even Clay at one point, he's like, I know what this is about. Just give me 15 minutes and we can talk it through. I don't know what I'm going to say, but here's kind of like my last ditch effort. And that's when her panic also keeps starting because it's almost like her panic never really subsides. If anything, it just kind of gets amplified because she's like, he's not showing up. He's never said something and not followed through. And then she's also, like you said, she's calling 911. She's like, I'm going to go home. Something is off. She sees Philip. Her being so logical through crisis is so important because she's like, I know people would point to me. And so she says on the phone, I just got home. My boyfriend is here. I don't know what happened. And then she's at the same time, she's shifting, apologizing to Philip. And then like, but I gotta go see my other man who's been kidnapped. And I'm going to freak the fuck out because I already am. When she's like, spiraling, I got to go get on, and she's in wolf form. I have to cross the country border to get my ass back to the U.S. Realizes cars are going in the wrong direction. She has to hop off. Lo and behold, Jeremy and crew save her after she's again having a panic attack now in wolf form and blacking out.
Yeah, and Jeremy has to put her in the cage for a few days and calm her down too. She still is freaking out. And then Jeremy, because she really just like cannot handle any of this. Jeremy cuts her and Nick out of the plans completely. It's just him and Antonio that are working and doing plan stuff. And Elena obviously does not take this well. And through days of idleness and a little bit of research and kind of figuring things out, she eventually finds one of the serial killers, tracks him, kills him after getting the information. And then there's a big confrontation at this cabin where all of the mutts are and Clay is. And he's been drugged. He is tied up and he's in a cage. He's no help here. And there's a big scuffle. Everybody's talking. And I wonder if they did this in the TV show, but the final like scene where like Elena is talking, like Clay's on the floor, and Elena is like, oh, fine. Like, Daniel, you want me? You've got me. I'll come with you. Release Clay. Carl, you want territory? Jeremy's coming. He's like coming up soon. Tell him that's what you want. He will honor it. Clay will tell him that I made the deal. This is done. We don't need to do this anymore. Right? Like everybody's in that room. And then LeBlanc just comes up behind Daniel and slits his fucking throat. Right? Because LeBlanc is a mutt and he just wants the killing to keep happening. He doesn't care about any of this. He just wants that feeling to keep going. So when it was over and when the like, you know, tried and true mutts that everybody is with, when that was about to be finished, he was just like, oh, I need more chaos. And he just like kills Daniel, who is the ringleader of all of it. I was not expecting that. I remember reading that as a kid being like, oh my God, wow. It's kind of like, spoiler for The Departed. It's kind of like that. You're just like, holy crap. I didn't see that coming at all. Great stuff. And, you know, and honestly from there, the book wraps up. Boom, 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 boom.
Would you have needed to be caged?
I don't know. I honestly have no idea. I don't know. I have no idea how I would react in that situation. It's one of those situations where you just have to put me in it and cross your fingers and see.
We'll see when we find out.
Yeah, we'll see. I just don't know. Yeah, and then wait, how does this book end? So this book ends with everybody going home, essentially. Everybody goes home, and Clay is really fucked up. And
yeah, Clay's still essentially in a coma because they kind of knocked him out and they put him under whatever sedative, and he was out for weeks. And I think they even say like maybe it was week 3 that he started stirring a little bit, but it was during that time, or no, it was at least a month, because it took her a month to realize, to go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, what Clay had said to her. He's like, I know why you picked him. I know why you picked Philip. But like, you have to figure that out on your own. And she realized it a month later when he was still knocked out, that she chose Philip because he reminded her exactly of Jeremy, which again goes into a type of love that she had for Jeremy, but it was definitely more of like a paternal caretaker love and not a romantic, passionate, fiery love.
I'm looking at my notes, and yeah, it was like over 5 weeks, and then a month on top. It was a good while that Clay was recuperating, and Elena was there just like kind of on nurse duty. And it is after Jeremy suggests to Elena that they need to get out of the house, let's go to dinner and a show, that Elena is like, oh my God.
Yeah, it was like so like in her face when he suggested like, let's distract you. You need it, and this isn't helping anybody.
She's like, oh no. So Elena realizes all of this. She puts it all together. She sneaks out of the house. She goes back to Toronto. She confronts Philip. She's waiting in the apartment just like he was for her. She's doing the same thing. And he comes in and she's like, hello. He's like, hello. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. I saw nothing.
Fair. Like, that's a normal react. Like, I feel like I saw nothing. Actually, who are you?
Yeah,
I don't know. I forgot. And he does. He's like, I remember nothing. The house was broken into. But also, like, funny thing where he was like, I sublet this place.
Get out. Take your shit.
Not just that, but I was just like, how is the subletter not even he? Could you imagine if the subletter walked in? And it was like, she's going to be like, you're not Philip.
You're not Philip. You're not Philip. Yeah, and I appreciate that with Philip too, because Philip, he's like, I don't know, they broke in, Clay was here, he fought him off, things happened, I saw nothing, Elena, but
then I was in the hospital.
Whoa,
how I got there.
Crazy shit.
How'd that happen?
I also like how too, that they're both kind of like, okay, okay. He's like, I was going to call you to like come get your stuff, but like I was working up to it. I really appreciated that little bit of Philip too. Like he was doing it. He was going to do it. She just like beat him to the punch.
Yeah. And I think it's just like him showing that the relationship was important to him too. And it didn't come easy. Cause like, I wanted to, like, it hurt him. He just was talking about buying a ring and proposing to her and having a lifelong commitment and like looking at houses. So like, I think he's just like, he's a good guy. They just, they just weren't right for each other kind of relationship.
So this book ends with Elena walking out of the apartment with 2 suitcases, and Clay sees her and comes like running up the front steps. He's like, just give me a chance. Just give me a chance. I know. Because like through audio, which we will touch on at the very end of this, but through audio, he's got a real thick Southern accent. He's like, I'm sorry, Elena.
Yeah, he's like begging for her, like, give me a chance and everything. She's like, if you read my note that I left by your table, because let's keep in mind, like, they're in upstate New York, which I'm in New York and my flight to Toronto is under an hour and a half. So if they're flying back and forth from Toronto to upstate New York, maybe 30 minutes. So she's like, if you read my note, I was coming back to you. You couldn't just like, wait.
He starts laughing and he's like, you got me there. He confesses like all of this love to her. And Elena's like, all right. You're groveling. That's great. Grovel a little bit more.
We love it.
Yeah,
Men don't beg hard enough or long enough.
Yeah, they don't beg enough. But Elena asks the question. She's like, hey, you went to save Philip. Like, you didn't have to do that. Like, why did you do that? And I love his answer. He's like, because you would want me to. And I know you want me to say, like, because I'm a good person, but I'm not. But I knew that you'd be mad at me if I didn't. And
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that he knew. And he was like, I could not give less of a fuck about Philip, but you do. Everything I do has always been with you in mind.
Yep. And Elena goes, okay, well, let's go home. And Clay's like, forever. And she's like, no, for a little while. And he goes, okay, a little while. I was thinking decades, maybe, 8 or 9 decades. That's not forever. But I'm ready to work on it. And then Elena, the last line, Elena says, and I'm ready to work on it too. And then it ends. And I think that's a really nice ending too. Like, you're still, it's a happily ever after, but like, you are still, like, putting effort into everything. It's not just like everything's perfect.
I really loved that. I loved that it wasn't just like for forever. It was just like for now, and I think that's also important because there are sometimes people like, sometimes forever isn't the healthiest for people. And I think that's also important to know that, like, when different relationships run their course, but the fact that, like you said, that they were willing to put effort into the now, into whatever happens in the future, but we're making a commitment to the other person and we'll see where it goes from there. I thought that was, to read that at young formative years, I say, like, there's so many lessons that we aren't finding out till later in lives. When people share their stories, like, you either stayed too long or you learn about yourself and like what you are willing and not willing to compromise over. So often we find them later in life. And then when you can not only hear the lessons early, but understand them early, because how many times do we also know that people could be like, giving us life, quote unquote, life lessons, and you're not going to give a single fuck about them. But maybe when they're delivered in this way, that's when it's going to hit you, not when some parental figure in your life is like, well, you're going to learn. You're like, the fuck I'm not.
Yeah. And okay, so kind of wrapping on this, because that's the end of the book, kind of wrapping on this, Jessica Marie, I have mentioned that this book came out in 2001, but that is not when the audio came out. Is that right?
No, the audio came out in 2022, which we both discovered because I was looking up this book for this episode on my Libby app, and they only had the ebook. And I've been kind of a spoiled brat about listening to audiobooks a lot recently. And I was like, well, there was an audiobook available. And then, we got our Audible version. And that's when I realized, I go, oh, wow, this is a recent find, or like not even a find, because obviously the book has been out since 2001, but to have it recorded in 2022, I guess my conversation when we started recording was there must have been a recent conversation to have the book be more accessible to wider audiences.
And part of that accessibility, I guess, I mean, it was a TV show. Does that count as accessibility? I think so. That counts as like press at the very least, like pointing back to the book.
Right. And I feel like this was a show on 2014 to 2016 with Laura Vandervoort. I don't know if I'm saying her last name correctly, but she's also really big on the con scene specifically for this show. I don't know what other show she's actually been in, but it was, I mean, essentially, it was those years that the show has been on. The show is based directly off of this book. I haven't read any of them, but it was a show on Sci-Fi. Of course, it was like, it was around the same time The Magicians was out too. Like I got really into Sci-Fi Network really quickly after you got me into Doctor Who. And then I was like fully in. Yeah, I don't remember much about the show though. I know I kept watching it before you stopped earlier than I did. And because I would ask you like, oh, did you watch? And you're like, I stopped watching. And I'm not saying the show was good. Okay. It was good the first season. I can understand why it stopped after the other ones, but I still didn't want to turn it off. I still had to keep watching it. Clay was still hot, like, I don't know. I'm in this period of I'm happy to rewatch older shows because those have just been better, with the exception of Heated Rivalry, not an ad, in the pit. But it's just, I don't know. There's joy. There's joy and there's happiness, and it's paranormal, I mean, like, I feel like we've had this conversation as like, being that National Werewolf Day is February 6th, when we were saying you see the cycle in media when the discussion of like werewolves and vampires happen. So it's always just looming of when the next one will happen, because 2014 to 2016, this is TVD. This is the originals. Like it was right after Twilight probably finished the last movie of the book series. So you're always just wondering when it's going to come back, because we even had, when we discussed in 2021 episodes of From Blood and Ash, like when is that happening? Because we also know the rights of that book have, the rights for the screen adaptation are out there with Amazon.
And just one final note before we wrap here, the actress that plays Elena on that TV show was perfectly cast.
Oh, absolutely.
Elena Elena says over and over and over again that she has like no curves. She is lean, like muscle. She's eating constantly. Their metabolisms as wolves make it so that they have to eat like almost constantly. So when I remember there was a little bit of, because she's very thin on the show. I remember the criticisms being like, wow. But when you look at the reference materials, like that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, no, there were no notes. I feel like because you also, and cameras have gotten a little bit better, but I hate when people would be like, oh, the camera always adds 10 to 15 pounds or whatever. And you're like, how? That person is frail. And then there would be comments at the con scene to be like, oh, she's very thin. And I mean, we've seen it in person too. Granted, that shift has happened with better cameras where nobody is looking. I don't want to say nobody. Obviously, that's a whole separate conversation. As emaciated as they once did. Hopefully we don't see that conversation still happening, in the discourse of, the news cycle, but here we are. But that being said, was perfectly casted. I forgot how old Jeremy looked in the show till I looked up because again, they say we talk about these books being written at an older age. Jeremy's in his 50s, and he's still leading everybody. We have Lauren. We have Elena and Clay. They're in their 30s because they met while he was a TA and she was a student. So I don't know. I also really find it refreshing when they are older because then it's like we can project a little bit. But knowing that you read this book when you were in your formative years and you had already read Anne Rice, there's always the conversation when it comes to vampires and werewolves. Would you be one or would you be the other? When you read this book, were you at a point where you were like, oh, wait, screw vampires. I totally want to be a werewolf?
No, I've always wanted to be a witch.
Oh, okay. So you're not even like within those two. I love that. Of course you would. But there's witches also in this series that I had found out.
Yes, there are witches also in this series. This series continues Women of the Otherworld. The next book deals with Elena and her life a little bit, and then it opens up into a bunch of other like supernatural creatures. I have not read those just because when I encountered this book, it was like a standalone to me, and I kept it that way for a really long time. So, but Jess, what about you? Vampire or werewolf?
I've never been good about thinking outside the box. I'm happy to just be a hybrid. I mean, though I recently shared with my niece when she was asking about my biological parents, I said, I just came from unicorns. So I feel like that is where I would probably be. Actually, I'm just a unicorn. And she was down with that. And I told her, I said, I love sequins and I love sparkle. And then she's like, that unicorn as your parents does make sense. So how do you know these human things? Kids are great. I'm telling you, like if you have fun with them, you could be, but this goes back to our Ellie conversation too, when we were reading Arrow of Fortune.
There's nothing wrong with being the amazing aunt.
So with that being said, feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. And you can also find us on YouTube. Please feel free to rate us 5 stars on any of your listening platforms. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.